In the last episode, I was cruising in Lyttleton. I was having a pretty good time, but I still had a lot of sailing planned and the summer was over. It was time to get moving. So Lyttleton's pretty good weather, but you do need to keep an eye on the southerlies, because when the southerlies come, they often hit really hard. It's not just really you want to be in a good anchorage for the southerly before it starts to go southerly. The other ones, it's not really like that. They're more slow, but the southerly hits hard. In fact, there's kind of an ominous cloud on the horizon coming across right now. So as soon as I've had some breakfast, we're gonna move to the other side. All right. Wind's picking up. Looks like I got away just in time. This guy's had the same idea. The next leg of the trip is Lyttleton to Wellington. It's 160 miles and there's no all-round anchorages where I can stop on the way. So I'm going to do it all in one go. I've been waiting 2 weeks for the right conditions and they're just about here. Brenda sent me an email telling me that hot cross buns, if you cook them on Good Friday, which is today, they will last for a whole year without going mouldy. And also, if you take them on a ship with you, they prevent shipwrecks. Both of those sound excellent and relevant to my interests. Here I have flour, sugar, sultanas, salt, coriander because I didn't have cinnamon, but I've got sourdough starter, so I'm going to make sourdough cross buns. And of course I don't have an oven either, so no idea if this is going to work. Let's give it a go. Dry ingredients mixed. It's a bit of mix and some sourdough on top. That's still too sticky, so we just add more flour, I think. Now it's not a very hot day, so I'm gonna keep it warm and then fresh clean tea towel. So nowadays with like wind meters and forecast and windy and all that sort of stuff, people don't really use the Beaufort scale anymore. But the Beaufort scale I've recently discovered is actually really useful, because you can look up there and see that whole tree is moving. So big branches moving for 6, the whole tree in motion is for 7, which is near game. A little bit difficult to decide if it's the whole tree in motion or not. But anyway, you can look up there and say it's very windy. The forecast was for a southerly gale that slowly died down, but quickly dropping to almost nothing in Pegasus Bay late Friday evening and Saturday morning. If I could stay in the good wind, it looked like it would be a smooth run. But if I hadn't made it by Monday, the wind turns around and I'd pretty much have to come back to Christchurch. I certainly didn't want to beat into a northerly Cook Strait gale. Looks like wind's starting to ease out there. I'm going to make sure it's easing at the observation at Le Bons Bay especially. Earliest I'll get underway is like 3, which is an hour and a half. Okay, this is my hot cross buns. According to the recipe, the crosses are just flour and water, so I used sourdough starter for that. Naturally, I was going to cook it in my frying pan, which, with a lid, is nearly as good as an oven, except without browning it on the top. Okay, it's gotten fairly calm out there, so let's get underway. 18:33, anchors up. It soon seemed like I may have left it too late. There was already very little wind. Newly repaired spinnaker up. This might be a good time to mention that I've long had a daydream about a cooking while sailing channel. So my hot cross buns are still pretty mushy on top. So what I'm going to have to do is fry them the other way up. It's a little bit less dramatic now that I have a catamaran that sails along level. My hot cross bun. Very tasty. It's a little bit closer to heated up dough than it is to something fluffy, but pretty tasty. Every other time I use a spinnaker, I'm just like, I hate spinnakers. They're just so badly behaved. Their bad behaviours are so bad. When they work, I love it. But when they don't work, they're terrible. And you know, they're basically designed to be like that. That's kind of the idea. Like, they're for racing, it's a test of skill. They're meant to be difficult to manage, but like that, from a cruising perspective, that's badly designed. You don't want to have something that's like you have to be super skilled to operate. You want to have something that has good behaviours. We've got a Bermudan rig, so we're just not in that world of well designed for good behaviours. Just sailed out of Lyttleton. Feeling a little bit nervous at the start of the trip because it has just been a gale, and it might apparently still some gale out there, but further north. I think it actually, even if it was, it wouldn't be much of a problem going with it. Except I definitely wouldn't want to be arriving in Wellington in gale conditions. I think it's just like a healthy thing to feel nervous. You're going from a place where it's like in the harbour, it's safe as. It's not like going out on the coast here. There's nowhere to stop really. There's Kaikoura, but Kaikoura is just like rocks. It's just completely chock-a-block with rocks. So we're going to go all the way, and then it's the Cook Strait, which is dangerous. If this was a trip to like from Auckland to Bay of Islands, there's like a million places I can stop on the way. Actually, it's the same as Auckland to Cape Reinga. One possibility actually is that I left too late and I'm going to get becalmed. Well, we barely left the harbour and now we're down to 3 knots. We're going 7 for a little bit and then the wind just dropped. There was a ship, looked like a ship was coming, but it might have been anchored. It was definitely anchored. It wasn't exactly the spot with the big anchor on the chart. And it doesn't seem to be getting close as fast as it should be. But we'll pass that now, so don't have to worry about that. Pretty much nothing, just what the wind's going to do. Well, I was really planning to be going faster than this. Pretty much becalmed. We're nearly down to just the swell wind. Like 2 knots is well, we're lucky. Exactly what I didn't want to happen. Definitely should have left earlier. But we're out here now, so I think if we head east, there's more likely to be wind. Well, after a slow start, we found the wind. We just had to get out so we're no longer in the lee of Bank Peninsula. Morning on day 2. Hot cross bun. We're actually sailing very nicely and with very little wind. Like 4.5 knots, which is still enough to get there in a day and a half. And the boat sailed all night and self-steering with the spinnaker up. Good, but it's just because it was light air and it's really the credit goes to the self-steering, but the spinnaker made us go fast. The visibility has improved slightly, but the wind has completely stopped. You can see a little bit of rougher stuff over there. So this is about where we are right now. The weather model said it's very light around there. This area often quite calm. That's Kaikoura. And big mountains all over here, so the weather map also often shows a big calm area there where in a southerly, so the mountains aren't blocking anything, but that's definitely another bit to watch out for. I've had plenty of complaints about wind noise, so during the calm I sewed these wind noise cancellation things that they call dead cats. I have to wait for some wind so I can test them. Okay, back to the sail setting. Just the spinnaker, where I tore the spinnaker last time. But of course this time I'm going to get it down if it gets rowdy. Sounds like very little wind noise, but some of the fluff at the edge of the camera going smooth as. Look at that. That's all the movement. Can I have a completely boring sailing trip when nothing goes wrong at all? I wonder how that will work as a title on a YouTube video. Would you click on that? Did you click on that? Very pleased to announce we're now north of Kaikoura. We're like 20 miles offshore though, well away from rocks and that sort of stuff. Got 60 miles to go. We're going like 6 knots, so we'll be at this. If this keeps up, we'll be arriving shortly after dawn, which is perfect. Spinnaker just whipped, just a little one. For the first time in exactly 6 hours. 17:37, 23:37. The day it tore, it was doing it like every 10 minutes. Written records, I can actually just look. It's like 8 times in an hour and a half. We're going for boarding this trip, so I've taken down the spinnaker and we've got the jib and the staysail, wing and wing. Going okay, it was in 5 and 6s, which is better really because then I will arrive in daylight. Approaching the notorious Cook Strait, so it's good to be cautious. There's the entrance. So last time I sailed into this harbour, it was on my monohull, my Raven 26. I just sailed from Auckland non-stop. I got to about here and was becalmed, and then a northerly came, and then it kept on getting stronger until it was a gale, and I had a gale in the Cook Strait. I had to heave to and then beat into it the next day. I didn't get in until the evening. So it took me a whole nother, I got to this point at like midnight, and then it was like late, and it was like more than 36 hours to get in. It was as long as the entire trip from Lyttleton has taken, and it was a lot less busy. I didn't have any hot cross buns on board. And what made that other arrival a lot worse too is I got to about here, I had cell phone signal after 8 days at sea, and I messaged all my Wellington friends and told them, I'm here, I've just arrived, I just have to sail in the harbour. Then the gale came. I'm not going to do that this time. Another hazard that Wellington Harbour has is very large ferries arriving all times of the day and night. Luckily, with a following southerly, I could sail straight in without having to tack and dodge them. And a southerly also meant that I could head straight for my favourite anchorage. Just tripped anchor, Oriental Bay, 11:30. Was basically totally uneventful passage. Nothing went wrong. Nothing even went wrong. Except a little bit of not enough wind. But we still did it in 40 hours. Actually, 2 minutes less than that. 39 hours. 2 nights and 1 day. I anchored in my favourite bay from when I first learned to sail, and lived on a small trailer sailor in Wellington. Wellington is a pretty good place to learn to sail because after that everything will seem easy. But it's not such a great place to live on a boat. I had good weather right now, but that might not last. Traditionally, you're meant to learn sailing as a kid, passed down from father to son. But not me. I grew up on a farm inland and hadn't even seen a sailboat up close when I decided to live on one. Since I didn't know anyone with a sailboat, I did a sailing course. I learnt on one of these boats, so it was nice to see that the sailing school was still operating. I did the course 20 years ago. They taught me to tie a bowline, raise the sails, tack, jibe, reef. My savings slowly increased and my expectations slowly lowered until I bought a 21-foot trailer sailor for $3,000 and moved on to it in the middle of winter. Anyway, I survived all that and still enjoyed sailing. That was 20 years ago and I have a lot more experience now. And one thing I know is not to linger in Wellington. That Friday, a light southerly came, which is perfect for sailing around to Nelson. It took a long time to get out of the harbour. This boat isn't that great to windward anyway. Been experimenting with the new way of shooting the jib. It took me a little while to realise I just had really good shape. But then, because it took so long, the tide actually came in my favour. Anyway, we're out now. Now we're on our way. This is the bit where it gets really nasty if it's rough. This is not the smoothest I've ever crossed the Cook Strait, but it's the second smoothest, definitely. I haven't crossed it yet. Usually it's 25 knots. It's the brothers. That apparently was the worst lighthouse. I read this book recently, Lighthouse Keeper's Wife, a woman and her family that were lighthouse keepers on Stevens Island, which we're going to be passing as well. But this one, Brothers Island, that was the worst lighthouse to be manning apparently. And it was manning because they only put single men there. The families all got the nicer ones, but that apparently was too extreme for women and children. But those guys, they were like the relievers, so they could go and like take over, you know, when the other ones needed a holiday. So they got a change. But after a while, they would get rock happy. I mean, on a day like this, you'd be like, what's the big deal? But this is not the typical day. This is the exceptional day. I think we're just about past the point. The point where I crossed my track from the last time I crossed the Cook Strait. That one was during much more typical Cook Strait conditions. We just circumnavigated the North Island. 20 months I calculated. A year and a half. Just passing Stevens Island. Had to take the spinnaker down, unfortunately. We're in close reach. So my plan is to just sort of sail out into the middle of Tasman Bay and then hope that there's enough wind tomorrow. Whenever I come straight down the coast, I get calmed every single time I go to Nelson, so I'm just going to go straight into the middle. These waves must be made by wind over there. That looks like proper wind. Eventually some wind did come. And some dolphins. I've had requests for more dolphins on my channel. Here you go. That evening I made it to the entrance of the harbour and anchored outside, e-motoring in and anchoring by Shore Island in the morning. Although Nelson is the same latitude as Wellington, it's extremely sheltered, with mountain ranges on three sides, creating extremely sunny and calm weather. I felt I was due a break, and this is somewhere where I could relax a while. Thank you for watching the whole video, and to everyone who commented last time. If you enjoyed the video, please post a comment and encourage me to make some more.